Okay, our first speaker of this session is Armin Kick. He's the Director of Business Development at Siemens Mobility. And he's responsible for high-speed rail business development for Siemens in the U.S. He was instrumental in developing the rolling stock solution for the All Aboard Florida project and responsible for the customer relations throughout the procurement process. And with that, I won't take too much time reading your bio. We'll go ahead and show one of Siemens' videos, and then Armin will be up.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you liked what's coming to Florida here soon. And I'd like to talk about that for a little while. I'm excited to be back here at the High Speed Rail Conference in Los Angeles, and thanks very much for having me here. And I've prepared a couple of topics and remarks, as this is called High Speed Rail Around the World. I'm going to start off with the train you just saw in the video, the Brightline train. I'm going to give a short update on what's happening in Turkey, the Eurostar fleet rollout of the new fleet. The ICE4 trains are now approved to run in Germany, and I'll speak about that a little bit, and what we can learn from all of that for the US. And the key question that always comes back, where does high-speed rail actually works? With that, for folks that have not had much exposure to the Brightline project, the concept here is to connect Miami and Orlando in under 3 hours. The first phase is going into operation this summer between Miami and West Palm Beach. And this is a diesel-electric, higher speed solution that basically captures the market in the concept of, competitive trip times under 3 hours between major urban centers. And this will really connect the state of Florida in a way that has never been connected before. You just saw that in the video. This is the first train that was shipped to West Palm Beach in November, and you'll see another video on the journey of this train actually getting across the country later. This train is 100% Buy America compliant built. We have about 40 suppliers in 20 states that support us on this project. It's 125 mile an hour service, so it falls into FRA Tier 1 category. And it has state-of-the-art crash energy management design. So the first train is bright blue. Every train will have a different color. So we got bright blue in Florida now, and this train has started testing on the line between West Palm Beach and Miami. These trains will eventually run on the Florida East Coast Railway all the way up to Cocoa and then over to Orlando when that extension is built in phase 2 of the project. So what is the concept here? Here's an interior shot of the train cars that we're currently building. It's all about the experience of the passenger in mind. Easy, convenient, comfortable is the goal. Spacious, flexible interiors with great visibility, big windows, a stark departure from the type of train you can ride around the US predominantly today. This is really a much more open and spacious environment that invites the business traveler and the leisure traveler in Florida to take this train. A couple of interesting facts here. It's about the focus on the customer, and it's about a carefree ride and a car-free future. So the whole concept that Brightline is putting forward is the possibility to live without a car in South Florida at first, which is unthinkable at this point in time. And this is really a big change for Florida with opening this service that provides a whole new transportation means in the state of Florida. So we've packed a lot of customer amenities into this train, very powerful Wi-Fi, power, USB everywhere, at every seat. And we've also implemented latest technology on this train. So here's another view. This is a view into the ADA restroom. We've, together with our customer, developed very new concepts of how this could look and how people would feel using an amenity like this. I just want to point out this water faucet there. It's a Dyson, So you have water coming out the center, air coming out on the sides, no dripping, no mess. So this is the type of thing that we're doing on this train to make it very appealing for the passengers that are going to take this train. It's also a touchless restroom, so you don't actually have to touch certain buttons, like the toilet flushes when you wave your hand. You don't actually have to touch a button. So there's some new features that make this train very appealing. Obviously, the train is packed with all sorts of diagnostic systems, reporting back to base, and all of the other technology that you find on high-speed trains these days. But what we want to show here predominantly is what you, as the rider of this train service, will experience. One also very important development here is that we have created the first ADA-compliant train end-to-end. So you can run a wheelchair through the entire train from the first to the last car. There's a 32-inch aisle width throughout the entire train. The transitions are wide, accommodating wheelchairs going from one car to another without any issues. That's the first time that that's been done in the US. We hope we're starting a trend here for a much more accessible future for passengers with mobility needs. This train is also a level boarding train. So we have a bridge closing device, we call it a gap filler, that actually closes the gap in between the train and the platform edge every time a train stops. And since the track and the platform is direct fixation, concrete slab, those dimensions always stay intact, and you have probably for the first time ever an actually truly ADA compliant solution in the market where there is the minimal vertical gap for people with mobility aids to get onto this train without outside help. So the equal treatment of people that have special needs to use such a train. So the future has arrived in Florida. This is the next train, just to give you a sneak preview. The next one is pink, bright pink, followed by bright orange, bright green, bright red, and so forth. So every train has its own identity, and we're very excited to be affiliated with this very exciting project that really changes the notion of train travel in the state of Florida. So with that, I want to jump over to Turkey. Rod Dearden already talked about the fact Turkey is doing high-speed rail. We really have some catch-up to do. And Turkey has a really significant plan, a very exciting plan, I think, that has a lot of focus. The goal is to establish a 10,000-kilometer network of high-speed lines using new lines, existing upgraded lines, and to take advantage of the conventional infrastructure that is there already. It's really a nation-building at home exercise, what's happening here. If you look, for instance, between Ankara and Konya, that line there was not a train line there to begin with. This is basically a new fast connection between two cities that wasn't there before, and now people can travel between those two cities very conveniently and very fast for business or pleasure. Obviously, the big connection is Ankara-Istanbul. That's now open. We are very excited that we were selected as the train builder for the high-speed trains for the Turkish network, and so the first 7 Volaros for Turkey are now running. And they have other build-out plans, as you see here on the map. There's significant growth expected in Turkey, and this is how the government is addressing that growth. So just to give you some impressions, this is the Turkish Volaro that's now running on those lines that you just saw. The goal of the government here is to basically increase rail usage by factor 5 and shifting the modal split. They have realized that they cannot build themselves out of the growth that's coming by just building roads, and they need to do something about this. And that's how the high-speed plan came into being, and that's how it's now being pursued to create a real alternative for people to take trains instead of having to drive everywhere. So how is that actually being done by the government? Well, it's just done through an investment shift. So they very clearly focus the investment into rail rather than more roads. And with that, they accelerate rail investment, and they provide attractive, customer-focused connections and reduce the trip times to something that has never been there before. So they're connecting the country in a way that has never been done before, and to the benefit and the great convenience of the riding public. So here's a shot of the maintenance facility. You see some of the trains in here. Obviously, to have a world-class service, you need world-class product and world-class partners in this case, and we're happy to be that with high availability and reliability for this type of train service. So from here on to Eurostar real quick. What's the latest on Eurostar? I talked about that in the last conference a little bit, but things have progressed. So the rollout of the new E320 fleet is continuing. Those are the trains that run between London and Paris, and in the future will also run into Belgium and the Netherlands. The E320 stands for 320 kilometers an hour, so 200-mile-an-hour trains. Those are 16-car trains, so they're very long trains based on the very strong ridership between those cities. Siemens is continuing to roll out that fleet, and it's working very well. A very, very highly reliable service. For folks that haven't had a chance to actually ride this train, I can truly recommend it. But in case you can't do that right now, I have a couple pictures here. This is what's called the standard cabin. And this is what is called the business class. There's very bold designs in these trains and an unprecedented level of style and comfort. Clearly, and it's this service is such that within a very short while, the workings between London and Paris are unthinkable without this train service now. And this is what we see everywhere around the world. Once a high-speed line opens up, only a short while has to pass until people realize that it doesn't work without it very, very quickly. And it's truly unthinkable to do business without the investment that has been done and without the added benefit of what such a high-speed line will bring. And we've seen that around the world, and it will be just exactly the same when it starts happening in the United States. So here's the dining car. All the passengers have the ability to get up and walk around on this train and go to the dining car. It's a very inviting atmosphere, and you can get a drink or a meal. Here's the cockpit, latest technology for latest high-speed trains. There's 17 of these high-speed trains being deployed on the line now. And it's really a seamless new connection that's been provided, and very, very strong ridership. Here's the crew going to the train. With that, let's switch over to Germany real quick. What's happening in Germany? In September, DB introduced the new trains, the ICE4. They build on the long legacy of the ICE trains, ICE 1, 2, 3, and now we have ICE4. They're going to get deployed firstly on the very heavily utilized intercity passenger routes in Germany, and they really form the backbone of the intercity passenger rail service going forward. The first two train sets are now in regular passenger service between Hamburg and Munich, so you actually have a chance to ride these trains. Again, if you don't have the chance to do that, I'll show a couple pictures. This is a very long, a 12-car train design, very innovative traction concept, the so-called power car concept, that allows for the train to be deployed in a longer or shorter version. These trains eventually will replace the ICE 1 and ICE 2 fleets when they get to the end of their useful life. The train itself has a 22% lower energy consumption compared to the ICE 1s. So there's great developments there as well. Here, more seats. Obviously, this is one of the big driving factors. More passengers need more seats. There's 830 seats on a train like this, 205 in first class. And that's a great improvement over the ICE 1 fleet. So here's another view into the interior. Again, spacious accommodation, modern seats, and lots of amenities for the riding public. Again, there is a cafe car that passengers can go to and get themselves a drink, and it's never a bad idea to get up and walk around. Actually, exactly the thing you cannot do on an aircraft, because they even tell you not to congregate anywhere and go anywhere. You may congregate in the cafe car, all right? How does that feel for freedom? All right, you like that? There you go. Okay, so trains are it for nations that need freedom. So, with that, so the ICE4 is in revenue service. Just a quick rundown. So the contract was awarded in May of 2011. Now the first trains are in the revenue service. That gives you a perspective of how long it takes, even in places that know trains and do trains and build lines. So it takes a long time to do these type of things. So 6+ years is a normal deployment period for train service. These things don't happen very quickly, and they need to be planned out. And we need to stay at it. As Secretary Kelly said, we just need to stay the course, and we will get there. With that, we get to the old question of where does high-speed rail actually work? And we think it's important to continue to talk about this and to talk about the concept of what it is and why it works when it's done right. And that brings me to this slide that basically shows where high-speed rail works and where it works best. This is basically a graph where we chart up the market share against trip time And what you can see here very clearly, rail is competitive anywhere under 4 hours. It reaches a 50% market share at around 3 hours trip time. And there's a beautiful example there with Madrid-Barcelona, where really the rail has captured the majority of the travel market, and has taken that away from the short-haul aircraft that Andy talked about, which is really not a very smart and efficient use of aircraft, because you spend a lot of time getting up to altitude and coming back down, and this is really where we should be deploying trains for much more efficient use and much less of an impact on the environment. So it's the same story for All Aboard Florida, different type of train there, but again, competitive. If you provide a service between Miami and Orlando at 3 hours, it will be very, very competitive. And it's the same for California High-Speed Rail, where we're achieving, or where the goal is to achieve the under 3 hour trip between San Francisco and Los Angeles, because we know that that actually works. And there's a high level of confidence that this will work in California, just as it has worked anywhere else. Also important is, and I'm very happy the Secretary talked about it, is it all has to fit together. It all has to work together. And the investments that are being done here in Los Angeles and up in the Bay Area all help to make this system work. So it's very, very important that you have that interconnected transportation system. And the connectivity is really key, so that it all becomes a success and the ridership grows on all of these systems in parallel. Personally, I can't wait to see the state rail plan coming out that was mentioned again. I've heard a little bit about what's in it, but I can say I feel very proud to live in a state that actually is putting out a great, bold vision on what passenger rail can be in this state, with a long-range plan that you can't get to in 1 year, 2 years, or anything like that. It takes a lot of commitment or stubbornness, as I learned today, to do that. And if you stay the course in California in 2040 or around then, we can have a passenger rail system that is comparable to what you find in Europe. So go wait for this plan, pick it up and read it. It's really, really exciting. California High-Speed Rail is obviously the backbone of this plan, but there's much more in it, and it really connects the entire state. And if we can find ways to put that all together with high-speed rail, California will have a very, very exciting passenger rail solution. So it all has to go together with intermodality as well. Trains are not just living by themselves. They live in a world of buses, metro, Ubers, and all the rest, and that has to be connected, and best if it gets connected with one touch of a button on your iPhone that buys you the whole trip, and you don't have to worry about tickets and everything else beyond that. And surely I hope that when high-speed rail opens, we will be at that point, and Silicon Valley can support that. Another aspect of this, and this is the last aspect of it, is the economic development that comes with high-speed rail. So here's a station. If you have a chance to see the main station in Berlin, it's one of the exciting places. This is built where there used to be the wall. There was nothing there, and a train station was built, and over the years you can now see all the economic development around that station of how that works. It's a fabulous station with 2 levels of tracks in 2 directions, meeting there with subway and transit, all getting into the station. And when you stand in that modern building and you imagine that this could be LA's Union Station, and you see the type of development that happens around a station like that, you really can grasp the concept of what high-speed rail does economically and how these hubs can evolve. And it's not only about shiny trains, it's about economic development, and it's about jobs as well. With that, in closing, Siemens has been a supporter of the U.S. High-Speed Rail Association since the beginning. We're participating in these conferences. We've also supported the whole aspect of providing more input into what high-speed rail really does economically. We've supported the U.S. Conference of Mayors study and the Midwest High-Speed Rail study. And with that, I'd like to thank you. I'm available for questions later, and we're going to show one quick video of how the All Aboard Florida, the Brightline train, got from Sacramento to its home in South Florida. Thank you.